Hi, my beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Mindful the Podcast. Now, today with me, I have a very special guest, a guest who is going to talk to us about, how to keep fit and eat healthily, as busy persons, as busy moms. And my guest is Ashley Schwartz. Did I
Hi,
get that right,
Claudia.
Ashley?
Yes, yes, you did. And I'm super excited to be here today. So, hello, all of Claudine's listeners. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
And let me tell you a little about Ashley. Now, Ashley is a body recomposition coach who is dedicated to helping women lose body fat and increase metabolism, balance their hormones, and just to feel their best in life. Now, Ashley is also the host of a podcast called Non-Negotiable Living with Ashley Schwartz. Thank you for coming on, Ashley.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here today with you.
And I am into a little of the fitness and that sort of thing. So, my first question to you is, time. How do we find time as busy moms? Because I know you are a mom too. How do we find time to just focus on our health? Because I know that can be so challenging sometimes running around. How can we find the time to prioritize our health and fitness?
Yes, Claudine, that is such a great question. I think that so many women struggle with this, whether they're mothers or not. And what I'll say is it's not about finding the time, it's about making it a priority. And what I've found with so many women is, especially as we navigate into the stage of life where we become employees and wives and mothers, I often see women putting themselves on the back burners for everybody else's needs. It's a woman's just default to do everything, take care of everything. And unfortunately, a lot of women forget that taking care of themselves is a big, pivotal, important part of that.
That's true.
So, what I always try and encourage women to do is realize that they are a priority. And in taking care of themselves, they are giving back to their family and their spouse and their children and everybody around them. Because when we exercise and we take care of our health through nutritious foods and healthy choices, we're able to give our family a more energetic, happier, healthier version of ourselves. So, in my opinion, exercising and taking care of yourself nutritionally should be a top priority because if we don't fill our cup, we're not going to be able to give our best version to our families. So it's really about just making the time for it, making it a priority, making it a non-negotiable in your life and saying that I'm important and this is what I need to feel my best and I'm going to make this work.
Yes. And I know for me as a mom, sometimes fitness and juggling everything can get so challenging. And, we put the health and we put ourselves last. We're at the back, you know? And for me, I do some sort of exercise, but it takes a lot. I do it in the mornings and you have to be disciplined and all of that. But how can like for a busy mom, like how can I fit in exercise? Because you have to make the time for that. It's not like eating, you can eat on the run, but
Yes,
you have
yes.
to dedicate that time. So how can I fit that into my schedule?
Absolutely. And I think that the biggest thing to consider is you have to do what works for you and what fits into your lifestyle. So we are all different. I work with mothers who are stay-at-home moms. I work with mothers who are working full-time. I work with women who don't have kids. And more than anything, we all have to find what integrates with our life and our schedule and suits our needs. Otherwise, we're never going to stick with it. If we're trying to live by somebody else's schedules, that's never going to serve our lives. So we have to find what works for us. So for some of my stay-at-home moms, they know that they cannot effectively get a workout in if their children are awake or home. So they might have to sacrifice and wake up a little bit earlier so that they can exercise before their children are awake. For some of my stay-at-home moms, that their kids still nap, maybe they're non-negotiables that they put the kid down for a nap in the middle of the day and they work out immediately so that they can do it, distraction free. I have some moms who will literally take their kids to the park and work out at the park alongside their kids while they play because they know that they'll be distracted for that amount of time and it allows their children to exercise while they do. I've also had moms where I've encouraged them to put on like a YouTube kids exercise video for their children to do while they work out so that they can do it together. Now, if you're a woman who doesn't have kids or your kids go to school, sometimes you have a little bit more flexibility, but then you still have to determine what fits your day. So back before I had kids and I was going to an office every day, I found that the most effective way for me to work out was on the way home before, I got to the house. So I would literally bring my gym bag with me every day to work. I would leave work, go straight to the gym, knock out my 30-minute workout, then go home and cook dinner. So that worked for me. Now that I have kids, I find that working out midday works for me best because I work from home. So I'm able to wake up early in the morning and work while my kids are sleeping, and then I take an hour gap in the middle of my day to exercise. So it all just depends on what you can incorporate into your day and what your time flexibility looks like. But the biggest thing that people need to understand is starting the habit is the hardest, and exercise doesn't have to take up a lot of time. I work out 30 minutes a day, at most 5 days a week, and that's the most I ever ask my clients to do. And I find that when you have these unrealistic expectations of exercise, that's when you fail. Is that if you're telling yourself you need a full hour at the gym or you need to be able to devote 2 hours at a time to working out, then that's never going to feel sustainable or feasible if you're a busy mom or a busy working woman without kids. So making it reasonable and saying, all I have to do is exercise for 30 minutes. And if you work out at home and you can't make it to the gym, you can do a body weight workout. You don't have to make it to the gym. As you can see, I have a Peloton behind me in my office. So if I can't make it to the gym, I'll jump on my Peloton. And all I need is 35 minutes of my day to be able to get on the Peloton, get my workout in, hop off the Peloton, make a quick protein shake, and get back to work. So we just have to make the habits non-negotiable, but it has to suit our life. So just making sure that we're being realistic about the goal and finding where it can best implement into our day and being flexible with that because not every day is going to go the way that we expect. And as mothers, we're going to have wrenches thrown in. Our kids are going to get sick. We're going to have work things come up. Those things happen all the time. So I always tell my clients that we need to be strict about the process, but flexible about the implementation. But really, the biggest key thing is finding what works for you, because if it doesn't work for you, it's never going to be sustainable.
Exactly. Because I know that I try to work out maybe like 4 times for the week. And I try to be flexible because I've realized that as my time change, because I work a 9 to 5 also.
Mm.
So as my time changes or as my kids schedule changes, it means that I might have to go early mornings to the gym before everybody's awake. Sometimes
Yes.
it's late at night when everybody's sleeping, or sometimes it's just I have to start my routine during maybe on a weekend.
Mhm.
So it depends on what happens. You have to be flexible about it. But I love what you said. You have to be strict about the process. You have to be
Mhm.
strict about the process and be disciplined and flexible if you want to sustain, you know? But
Yeah.
actually, you said that, okay, 30, 35 minutes would be okay to, get moving, to get a workout in. Are there specific like exercises that we need to do?
Yes, absolutely. I love this question. So, Claudine, as women, as we age, and just as people as we age, every year after we turn 30, we start to diminish our muscle mass naturally. That's just part of the progression of aging. So, if we don't consciously work to keep our muscle mass, we start to lose it. And this is why when people get into their 30s, into their 40s, they'll say, gosh, I hit 35 and my metabolism slowed down and I gained 5 pounds. And then I hit 40 and it slowed down again and I gained 5 pounds. So, in reality, what's happening is your metabolism isn't just slowing down all of a sudden when you hit a certain age. It's happening every year. And it's not necessarily your metabolism slowing, but we're losing muscle mass. And that is diminishing our body's capability of burning extra calories because having muscle mass naturally allows us to burn more calories. So, I encourage everybody at least after the age of 30 to start strength training, because strength training is the only thing that we could do to build muscle mass and increase our metabolism. And not only that, it increases our functional independence, it reduces our risk of cancer, it reduces our risk of developing osteoporosis, it reduces our risk of developing neurodegenerative diseases. So there's so many values to strength training. But if we want to keep weight off, if we want to be the kind of person who can get out of bed on our own in our 80s, if we want to prevent getting hip breaks and bone breaks as we age, then strength training is really key to that. So I encourage strength training at least 3 days a week for 30 minutes for every person. And my program, again, is based off of 30 minutes of exercise at most 5 days a week. So some of my clients strength train 3 days a week. Some strength train 4 days a week, just depending on their level of experience with lifting, what their goals are, and their time constraints. So, in my opinion, the best thing that anybody could do is strength train at least 3 days a week. And then cardiovascular health is when you do cardio exercise, there's great value, but it shouldn't be used for fat loss necessarily. It should be used to improve your cardiovascular health and your heart health. So I tend to do 4 days of lifting, 1 day of cardio. Some of my clients like to do 3 days of lifting, 2 days of cardio. It's really just dependent on the person and their goals and what approach we want to take for them. But yes, I think that the foundation of everybody's exercise routine should be 3 days of strength training and daily walking. So daily walking is another thing that I think really is undervalued. And anybody who walks less than 5,000 steps a day is considered sedentary by the CDC and the National Institute of Health. So we have to consider that if we're not walking throughout our days, we're diminishing our cardiovascular health, we're increasing our risk of stroke, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So walking is really one of the best exercises that we can do to lower our body fat and improve our cardiovascular health. So I aim for 10,000 steps every day. When my clients come to work with me, I typically, kind of baseline where everybody's at and encourage everybody to walk between 5,000 and 10,000 steps a day. And depending on their experience, we'll start to increase that. But my aim is always to get everybody walking that 10,000 steps a day. Now, there's a lot of controversy around this, and everybody will say, that's just a made up number. It doesn't mean anything. But when push comes to shove, walking 10,000 steps a day can burn an additional 300 to 400 calories a day. So if your goal is to keep your cardiovascular health up, keep your body fat low, and increase your muscle mass, then walking 10,000 steps a day is a really good way to burn extra calories to lose body fat. But also, it's not cardiovascular like at a high heart rate to the point that it's going to diminish your value of lifting weights or cause you to not put on muscle mass. So in my opinion, the most important foundation of exercise that anybody could have is 3 days of lifting and daily walking.
But how can we get in like 10,000 steps when I know for me, I do a 9 to 5 and I mostly sit around a computer. Okay. I am naturally, they call me a walkabout at work. So I'll naturally get up and go look for people and walk. But I mean, people who would sit behind a desk. How do you
Yes.
get 10,000 steps in?
Yes. So it is difficult. And believe me, I worked behind desks for a long time, so I completely understand. So the key, in my opinion, is to split it up throughout the day. Don't try to tackle it all at once. So if you work in a desk job, maybe in the morning before work, you make a lap around your office building. Maybe every couple hours while you work, you make an effort to go fill up your water bottle, walk to the bathroom, make a lap around the office building. And really splitting it up, steps really add up quickly. So one other thing is when the weather's nice, I always encourage people, if after dinner, rather than going to sit on the couch and watch TV, if you can go
Oh,
on a quick walk around the neighborhood with your family. You live in Jamaica, so besides the rainy season, you have beautiful weather all the time. I live in Idaho. It's not the same. So here it is cold and dark in the winter, and it makes it really difficult to get my steps in. So I've had days, Claudine, where I've literally been walking through my house trying to get my steps in because the weather is so cold and dark outside. What I've found is if you work from home or if you have an office that allows it, having a stand-up desk. So I'm standing at my stand-up desk right now and I have a walking pad. So what I
okay.
do is I walk when I'm able to. So I can't walk and type at the same time, but I can walk and use my mouse and I can walk and be on conference calls. So that's what I do, working
Okay.
from home. I've also worked at offices before that had walking desks. So if your office allows it, then a lot of times, from an ergonomic standpoint and also from a health standpoint, offices will sometimes pay for the cost of walking pads because it improves your health. And it lowers the amount that you're going to end up billing to their insurance eventually because you're improving your health. So there's a lot of perks if the problem is people don't ask the right questions. So, people think, I can't have a stand-up desk. I can't have a walking pad at work. And it's like, well, have you asked? You'd be
True.
surprised, how often the answer is yes if you just ask the question. So obviously, if you work for yourself and you work from home, you have the flexibility to do whatever you want. If you work at an office, it's just about asking the right questions and getting that approval. But if neither of those things are options, so for example, one of my best friends is a comic book artist. She can't walk on a treadmill while she does that.
Yeah.
She has to be very still, very close to her materials. So it's just not an option. So what people like that can do instead is implement walks into their daily life. So maybe it's a walk before work, a walk at lunch, a walk after dinner. And if you can't get a walk in, another option is you can jump rope at home for 5 minutes in the evening and knock out 5,000 steps. So it's really one of those things where, again, it's about finding what suits your life and what you can incorporate and what works for you and then implementing it. And you don't want to start with this big goal of 10,000 steps all at once if you're walking 2,000 steps a day. You want to build on it incrementally. So you want to start with, okay, so my baseline is 4,000 steps a day. For the
True.
next 2 weeks, I'm going to aim for 5,000. And once that feels reasonable, then you say, okay, for the next, 2 weeks, I'm going to aim for 6,000. And you slowly work that up. And what you'll find is as you start to do these things, your body starts to crave it. So when you start moving your body more, you're going to want to move your body more, and your body's naturally not going to want to sit as much, and
Yes.
you're going to want to get up and walk around. So the biggest thing is just to start the habit and start moving in the right direction, but make your goals realistic and implement them in small steps rather than all at once.
And I like that. Implement it in small steps. Because I know sometimes, at the beginning of the year, when everybody has a New Year resolution and everybody goes to the gym, everybody wants to start working out. But then when you realize the task at hand, like you have to do the 10,000 steps, soon it goes haywire. So I love that we should, go small steps. So if you can only go 3,000 steps a day, start and then gradually increase.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about the strength training. Um, because actually before I actually started working out, we had a misconception, and especially in Jamaica, we love athletics. And we used to think that when you're doing strength training, when you lift weights, it would make you bulky. So you're like, I'm not going to the gym to lift weights. So you only go to the gym to run on the treadmill and do the little things because you're like, lifting weights is gonna make me hard. We call in Jamaica, we say it's gonna let us be tough. So or look tough. That's what we say. So it's the bulkiness. So and I found out that was a myth when I started strength training, and I now love strength training. I love lifting weights and seeing how strong and stronger I can get. So I just love that you touched on the point of, you know, strength training is good and the best and good for you as you get older. Because I know the myth is out there.
Yeah, and Claudine, in Jamaica, that's not the only place this exists. Unfortunately, it's a common misconception for most women all over the world. And it's very detrimental because society has told women that weightlifting is for men. Weightlifting will make you tough and hard and muscular and
Yes.
manly. And it's just not true. When people think about looking at these fit and toned and defined bodies, that comes from strength training. Those bodies aren't built on cardio and under eating. The only thing that doing excessive cardio and under eating is going to get you is either very skinny or skinny fat, not looking fit, not looking toned, not looking defined. But those really fit bodies with tone and definition and good shape, those are built through strength training and fueling your body properly for your goals. So I always like to tell people if excessive cardio and starving yourself worked, most people would be at their dream goals because I don't know a woman who hasn't tried the approach of doing excessive cardio and under eating. And it doesn't get you your body goals. It doesn't get you the weight loss you're after. What does is strength training, building muscle mass, which naturally allows you to lose the body fat, which is body recomposition. So increasing muscle mass and losing body fat is what body recomposition is. And that's what I'm after with my clients is helping them achieve that lean, toned, defined look. So yes, that misconception that it's going to make you manly and bulky, that's always there. But what people don't tend to realize is it takes a lot of time and energy and effort and food to achieve bulkiness. And naturally, women aren't built for becoming bulky, like we don't have the testosterone levels that men have that make them bulky and muscular and hard and tough looking. I mean, given I'm a very muscular woman, but I wouldn't say that I look manly or like too
No.
buff. I still have a very feminine body, and I've been lifting weights for 18 years. So that's the thing is there is a big misconception, but you have to remember like muscle growth doesn't happen overnight. If anybody started to reach a point that they felt too muscular, they could just stop or slow
Stop.
down or maintain. It's not like you're going to wake up one morning looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger because you lifted a few weights. That's just not how it works. So believe me, Claudine, unfortunately, that's one of the biggest struggles that I have is getting through to women that strength training is not going to make them bulky or muscular or, look like a man.
And I can tell you, people, strength training won't let you look that way. You'll feel better. And when you move from one weight to the next, and you see those heavy weights, and you're like, okay, I did 5 pounds, and when you can lift 10, it's the greatest feeling.
Yes, it is. There's a lot of pride in it for sure. And, that's one thing I noticed when I first started strength training, which was back in my teens. I loved how confident it made me. I loved how it made my body look. I loved how, strong I felt. And I loved that I could eat more and not gain weight. And that's really one of the biggest perks that you get from being muscular is it improves your metabolism. It increases your daily energy burn, so that you can eat and not put on excess body fat.
And since we're on eating and fueling your body, we talk about, the strength training and the exercise part of it. But how should we be eating if we, want to stay healthy or want to lose weight?
Yes. So this is a big one, Claudine. Unfortunately, society has caused women to chronically undereat, dieting and all of these restrictive things that people do, or cutting out carbs or, stopping eating fats. These are all very detrimental. When we're talking about food, we're talking about macros. And what makes up your macros is proteins, fats, and carbs. And our body needs all of those things. So I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with is women under eating and then trying to cut out certain food groups because they think that they are bad.
Yes.
No food is bad. It's about everything in moderation. I don't believe in dieting. I believe that, I don't believe the word diet should be said. It's not allowed in my program. It's not allowed in my house. What it should be is a lifestyle of, fueling your body properly. And that includes eating everything, but in moderation. So, in my opinion, the best approach to eating is to make sure that we're prioritizing protein. So, as we age, we're losing muscle mass. The way to build muscle mass is to strength train and make sure you're getting enough calories in, and especially enough protein. The other really big key factor as we age and get into perimenopause and menopause is making sure that we get enough fiber in as well. But in my humble opinion, and people will, argue differently about this, it's not necessary to track your carbs and fats every day to a T. If you're an elite athlete, if you're a bodybuilder, yes, that stuff might be important. But for a normal person like you or I or anybody I coach, it's enough to track your calories and your protein and making sure you're getting enough fiber in. And that's all you need to do. The problem with tracking all three macros is it becomes so specific. It becomes
Yeah.
very difficult. And that's where people start to get into that very obsessive mindset around food. So, in my opinion, if you can prioritize protein, So for me, I aim to get about 150 grams of protein in a day. Obviously, everybody's macros are different depending on
That's
their
hard.
age, their goals, how much they're working out. But for me, 150 grams of protein a day, I aim for 30 grams of fiber a day, and I eat anywhere between 1,700 and 2,200 calories a day, depending on if I'm in a cut, if I'm at maintenance, or I'm in a bulk. So it's really prioritizing protein, being flexible with carbs and fats. So the reason I say that flexibility is because with my program and my coaching, we implement the 80-20 rule. So that means 80% of the time, I want my clients to be hitting their macros so that we can achieve their body goals. Because most of the people who come into my program want to lose body fat, build muscle, and achieve that toned and defined look. So we follow the 80-20 rule. So 8 out of every 10 days, they hit their macros. And 20% of the time, so 2 out of every 10 days, they can do whatever they want, Claudine. If they want to go eat all you can eat sushi and drink margaritas with their husbands, they can do that. If they want to have pizza and ice cream dates with their kids, they can do that because it's about what we do most of the time, not some of the time. So I'm the biggest proponent that life is meant to be lived and we shouldn't deny ourselves food. If there's something that makes us happy, we should eat it because we're here for a good time, not a long time. But we have to be reasonable about our intake. We have to be balanced about our intake. And if we're serious about our goals, then we need to be hitting those macros that 80% of the time. And the 20% just kind of buffs out. It doesn't matter because we're being consistent most of the time.
And I like that because a diet has to be sustainable. Because I keep telling people if you have me eating one leaf of lettuce a day, and that's the only thing with some green juice, how
Mhm.
long can I sustain that? Like after a week of doing that, that's it for me. I'm giving up. I've already given up from the first day. You know what I mean? So a diet has to be sustainable. And when you talk about prioritizing protein, I'm in Jamaica, and Jamaicans are, we eat a lot of carbs. So
Mhm.
carbs for us, we're big on carbs, right?
Yeah.
We have something that we call boiled food, which is like boiled bananas, boiled dumpling, yams, potatoes, and when I list out all of that, that's all of that must be on the plate.
Mhm.
So we're heavy on the carbs. So I'm asking you, like, when you say to prioritize protein, um, is it how? What does that look? Is it like one leg of chicken, one thigh, one chicken breast? I just want to get the visualization of the protein intake.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea, so I was in Jamaica a couple of years ago and oh my gosh, the food was delicious. But yes, it was very carb heavy. So when I would get a meal served, so maybe I got, jerk chicken, they would give me like a thigh and then some rice and some potatoes or something like that, or a vegetable on the side rather than potatoes, maybe a green of some sort. And I would always need twice the amount of protein for myself. So at dinner time, if I'm having chicken thighs, it might be two chicken thighs. If I'm having a chicken breast, it might be one whole chicken breast. If I'm having a steak, it might be a 6 ounce steak. So when you're thinking about like your palm as a reference, typically if you think about the size of your palm and the width of it,
Yeah.
that's about 6 ounces if you were to think about meat. So if you're prioritizing between 4 to 6 ounces of meat twice a day, so at lunch and at dinner, then that's, a significant amount of protein depending on your protein source. But then also it's about prioritizing protein at breakfast. And this is where people struggle the most, I believe, because society has kind of defaulted to a very high carb breakfast approach. So whether it's, cereal or oatmeal or waffles, pancakes, any number of things, a lot of people don't get enough protein at breakfast. And
Protein.
if you don't start your day strong with protein, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're trying to make up for it at the end of the day. And I'm going to be honest, Claudine, I think 99.9% of people overestimate their protein intake. So the best thing I could recommend is track your macros using MyFitnessPal and get a baseline for where you're at. Because I've had people tell me they prioritize protein and I eat high protein. Then they track their food and they realize they're taking in 50 grams of protein a day, which is not nearly enough. So My best recommendation when it comes to protein prioritization is to start early. So every morning I have collagen in my coffee, which is 10 grams of protein. Also, collagen's great, especially for women. It improves our bones, our skin, our nails, our hair, our eyes. It's great for everything. So everyone should take it. But that's 10 grams of protein I put in my coffee, and that's an easy way to get it in early in the morning. I also eat cottage cheese most days. So a cup of cottage cheese is 25 grams of protein. I have a yogurt most days because yogurt's a great source of protein. It's also good for gut health because of the probiotics. So that has anywhere between 15 to 20 grams of protein. Most days, I really like cheese. I'll have a cheese stick. That's 8 grams of protein. I also encourage everybody to supplement with protein powder after their workouts if they struggle to get protein in, and also just because it's easy. So every day after my workouts, I drink a protein shake, and my protein powder is about 25 grams of protein. I also mix in a milk that might be 8 grams of protein. I'll put in chia seeds that has protein. You could put in peanut butter powder. You can put all sorts of stuff in your protein shakes. So depending on how people struggle with protein intake, I'll recommend that they make their protein shake anywhere between 20 and 50 grams of protein just to bridge that gap in their day. And for someone like you who lives in a place that maybe protein isn't prioritized by default in meals, maybe that's the way that you do it, is you create a high protein, like you said, you go to the gym early. So you could easily go to the gym early, come home and make a 50-gram protein shake, and that can be your breakfast.
Yeah.
So that's a really strong and powerful way to start your day with protein, but then also being able to add things in there that are going to help your digestion. You know, chia seeds have omega-3s and fiber. You can add spinach and greens to get antioxidants. You could throw blueberries to get antioxidants in there. You could put banana to get potassium in there. So protein shakes are just so versatile. You could do so much with them. So when somebody is really struggling with their protein intake, I always start with, let's incorporate a protein shake and pump that up. And then once we dial in the rest of their day, then we can start to make the protein shake less important as we can incorporate more foods.
But I know for me, Ashley, is like um prioritize protein, but also looking at calories. How
Yes.
do I balance?
Yes, yes, yes. So that can be difficult too. What people have to see is that there are high protein sources that are low calorie or low fat, and then there's the opposite, where high protein sources with high fat. So unfortunately, there's a mindset around things that anything with protein is a high protein source, which isn't necessarily true. So if you think about an egg is 6 grams of protein, and they're about 70 to 80 calories because they're high in fat. So when you think about the calories, so if the egg is 70 grams of or 70 calories, but only 6 grams of protein, if you were to knock the zero off of that calorie count, you've got a 7 for the calories and you've got a 6 for the protein. So technically, eggs aren't a high protein source. So you want to have the grams of protein to exceed the basic like calorie basis in something. So when you think about cottage cheese has 25 grams of protein per cup, and it might be 150 calories. So that number exceeds it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, like when people talk about peanut butter as a protein source, peanut butter is not a protein source. It has protein, but it's high fat, high calories. So, a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to add peanut butter, but peanut butter is incredibly high calories. So, if people are trying to supplement peanut butter as a protein source, their calories are going to be through the roof and they're not going to be able to lose weight. So, some misconceptions around protein sources are, you know, beans are high protein, but they're not a high protein source in and of themselves because they're very high carb. Peanut butter has protein, but it's very high fat. You think of like quinoa, high protein, high calories, high carbs. Um, Egg, high protein, high fat. So when we're thinking about protein sources, we're really thinking about lean meats and low fat dairy options as like the majority of things. Also, if somebody's a vegetarian, tofu's a great protein source as well. But yeah, we just have to look at what intake is reasonable. So cottage cheese is a great high protein source. Yogurt, chicken, lean beef, fish, like salmon's pretty fatty, but if you think of like you're down in Jamaica, so there's a lot of availability to get fish. So a lot of white fishes and stuff like that are lower in
Yeah, I love
fat.
that.
Tuna is a great protein source. Canned tuna, even people who get canned chicken and make chicken salad out of it. But we just have to choose lower calorie protein sources or not fatten them up with things like sauces, because that's the other thing is a lot of people take a high protein source that's low calorie and then they'll make it terrible. They'll take shrimp and they'll slather it in butter to make shrimp scampi and put, an Alfredo sauce on it. And all of a sudden it's very high fat, high calorie. So I always recommend if people can smoke or grill their meats, then they tend to keep the fat content down and not put sauces on as many things. So, like at dinner time for me, most nights we make a meat, a vegetable, and a starch. As a family, we all eat the same meal. We don't make special meals for our kids. And that was one thing that we, implemented as a family to make sure that our kids eat nutritious meals and they get exposed to a lot of foods. So we always do a meat, we always do a vegetable, and our vegetables are often just, roasted in the oven or cooked on the stove, or boiled, just depending on the approach, because a lot of people make vegetables unhealthy by slathering them in oils as well.
Yes.
And do a starch or, a side. So it might be potatoes, pasta, rice. We typically let the kids choose, but we always participate. So my husband and I eat that as well. So it's not like, the kids are eating high carbs and we're not. It's like, no, we're eating the rice too. We're eating the pasta too. We're having the potatoes too.
The whole family is eating the same thing, and that's
Yes.
good. So
Yes. What
actually,
what we eat is what our kids eat.
exactly. We touched on like the exercise, we touched on the food, you know. But how do we keep consistent?
Hmm.
So we'll try prioritizing protein. We're getting in the steps, trying to do the strength training 3 to 4 times a week. But how do we keep consistent at doing this? Because I know sometimes you want to give up, you want to say this is too much. So how do we keep consistent?
Yeah. So that's a big struggle for a lot of people, and people struggle with consistency for a multitude of reasons. Again, this goes back to making it a non-negotiable priority in your life. So, in my opinion, you have to look at exercise as just as important as everything else you do. So, when you get up and you get your kids ready for school and you take them to school and you feed them and you do all the things to take care of them every day because you love them and you're responsible for them. So what we have to do is we have to shift our mindset to loving ourselves and being responsible for us and doing the things that we need to do for us at that same level of importance as everything else. Claudine, you don't miss meetings you have for work. You don't blow them off if you don't feel good. You don't blow them off
True.
because it's a holiday. You show up and you do those things because you're supposed to and you have to. So people have to shift the mindset around their health to be just as important as everything else in their life. But that's the problem is people don't. People don't see their health as a priority, which is unfortunate because when push comes to shove, if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. Health is our
True.
foundation. If I'm not healthy, I can't take care of my kids. If I'm not healthy, I can't go on vacation. If I'm not healthy, I can't go do things that I love. If I'm not healthy, I can't go to work. So, health really should be our biggest investment and our greatest priority because it allows us to do everything else at a better level. We're able to bring a better version of ourselves to all of those things. So, what I encourage people to do is schedule your workouts on your calendar. All your work meetings are on there. All your doctor's appointments are on there. So
True.
why wouldn't your workouts be on there? Schedule meal prep days, schedule grocery shopping trips, make those things non-negotiable. We have to implement them in our lives in a way that says this holds importance and I'm not going to put this off. But when we think about it and we say, I could skip the gym today because I got busy. We shouldn't be doing that. We need to make that non-negotiable because our health depends on that. And the problem is people have too short of a mindset. They think, I'm not going to gain weight if I don't go to the gym today. But they don't understand the long-term
The long
implications
term.
of continuing that behavior of putting it off. So I think if people could zoom out and take a 30,000-foot view at their life and realize that the choices that we make every day add up to the futures we create for ourselves, they would change their perspective. It might be easy to say, I'm just going to eat something crappy for dinner tonight because I'm too busy to cook or I'm too tired to cook. But if you think about if you default to that for too many years, that's going to lead to heart disease and stroke and obesity later. So
True.
it is a big, important decision to be made. But unfortunately, people think too short term. They think this doesn't matter. It's just one day. But those days add up. So I think that the biggest thing is with consistency. A lot of people do quit or fail because they're thinking too short term. They're like, if I don't lose a pound this week, I'm going to stop doing this. Or, I worked out for a month and my pants are still tight. So I'm just going to quit because this isn't working. People need to stick with it long enough to realize it shouldn't be a quick fix. It shouldn't be a short term thing. It should be a long term investment and commitment in your lifestyle. And the results will come. The problem is we have a patience issue these days.
Yes.
Everybody expects instant gratification.
True.
Everybody expects something to happen now and immediately. And that's not how fitness works. People who are incredibly fit, they have dedication and commitment and patience. So the people who constantly start a diet and quit, start working out and quit, start a new habit and quit, their problem is their patience and they're not willing to see it out. So we have to give ourselves a fair chance. We have to be realistic about what expectations we should have of the results we're going to get. So I always tell people that reasonable weight loss is anywhere between a half pound and 1 pound a week. Now, here's the thing, Claudine. That's if you're following the right plan for your goals and the right nutrition for your goals. If you're not, then you're not going to get those results. So unfortunately, I see people every day who say, I exercise 5 days a week and I eat healthy and nothing's happening. I'm not losing weight. I'm not losing inches. I'm not getting stronger. And I'll tell them, well, there's a difference between exercising and exercising for your goals and eating healthy and eating for your goals. And the problem is a lot of people have those things wrong and they're never going to get the results they're looking for if not. And that's the value of working with a coach is you can start to see results day one, which sure helps with the consistency and the motivation. When you're doing the work every day and not seeing the results, it makes it really easy to quit. But when you have the right plan, you have the right approach, and you have the right accountability, it makes it so much easier to stick to your goals.
And actually, we have you and your program to guide us. So for any one of my listeners who, need a coach, who need that accountability, who need, the information, the proper way of doing things, Ashley has her program.
Yes, yes. And my program is really designed for busy women to lose body fat, balance their hormones, lower their cortisol, increase their muscle, decrease body fat to achieve that lean, tone defined look. And it's incredible what can be accomplished in a short period of time when people are on the right program with the right support. So I've been helping people. I mean, I've coached men and women for years. Right now I'm in the season of life of motherhood. I've got a 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. So I understand being a busy mom and trying to balance it all and mom guilt and all of these things that come with it. So my goal is to help as many women as I can learn to make themselves a priority, learn to, improve their health and their confidence and their body image. And, mothers are the foundation of a household. Women are the foundation of a household, whether you're a mother or not. What you do, your family's going to do. What you do, your husband's going to follow suit. And when we can create that shift towards health and fueling our bodies properly and not chasing diet culture and exercising because we love our bodies, everything changes and we can really break a lot of generational curses, because diet culture has been beaten into us since we were children and we can change the narrative as mothers and as women.
And I even see that because starting to work out, and being consistent with it, I've seen my son look at that and he's like, the discipline that I put into it. He's now, wanting to just move about to exercise that sort of thing. So the children will follow your example when they do see you, eating properly and just trying to get the good habit.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And nothing brings me more joy than to hear a mother say, my kids asked if they could work out with me. My kids asked to go on a walk with me. You know, my kids are taking interest in new foods that I'm eating because there really is power in that. And we're able to break a lot of generational curses by just taking care of ourselves and being that example for the people around us. And what I always tell women is you're going to inspire more people than you realize
True.
because there are so many people around you who have no desire to grow and be healthy and get better. But when they start to see you thriving and have more energy and happier and more confident, that rubs off. And it really does encourage people to realize that they have the power to change their lives. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time and energy. It just takes a conscious decision and enough commitment and dedication to stick with it.
Great, great. So in wrapping up now, I'll go through what I've learned from you, Ashley. Um, I've learned that we have to prioritize self. That's the first thing. Prioritize yourself. It has to be a non-negotiable. Put yourself first, right? We have to have realistic goals. So we have to have realistic goals. You can start small and then move up, So set your goals where you know you can reach them and then you implement and move up gradually. Um, you can be, or you have to be flexible. So you have to be flexible, whether it's for time, in the exercises that you do or the amount, the days, you have to be flexible. So it's not a one size fits all drill sergeant. It has to be 5 days a week. You have to do this. You can be flexible with your time, with everything that you're doing. I love that you said you be flexible, but you have to be strict about the process. You have to be strict about the process. You have to be disciplined and enjoy it.
Yes.
You have to enjoy what you're doing, right? And for the food, you to be sustainable, we have to prioritize protein, right? Um, prioritize our proteins and eat what we can or want. It doesn't have to be restrictive. One lettuce a day, that sort of thing. But you can enjoy the foods that you love. Just knowing, prioritize your protein and get your I call that your I'm lost for the words now, but prioritize your protein, but enjoy the foods that you love also, right? And most importantly, you have to be patient. Patient with yourself and with the process. It's not instantly as I go to the gym for 5 days that I'll be seeing the results. And, I look like Ashley looks, but we have to be patient and, over time, everything, you will lose the weight, you will develop the habits, you will feel and have that confidence. So be patient with yourself, most of all. Have I covered everything? I don't know.
Yes, Claudine, you've done a beautiful job. And, that's really it, is that our health is an investment and it's the best investment we can make. And it's going to determine our future and it's going to determine our children's future. If we create that healthy foundation and we're those examples, we're going to create a better life for our kids. And that's the goal. We want to do better for our kids and we want to be around for them. We want to get to be the active parents and we want to get to be the active grandparents one day. And we want to be a positive impact on our children and not, dragging them down because we made poor choices with our health and now we suffer from medical problems in our elder years. So we have to do what we can to ensure a good future, a good life for our family and ourselves and, to get to retirement and get to enjoy it. So all of those things that you said are beautiful. They're spot on. It doesn't have to be complicated. We just have to be consistent.
Yes. And for Ashley, I'll put everything for Ashley in the show notes. But Ashley, how can the listeners reach you, get to you, and to know about your program? And Ashley started a podcast also, guys. You should listen. The Non-Negotiable Living. Non-Negotiable Living. It's on Spotify and it's on YouTube. No, it's not on YouTube yet. Is it,
Not
Ashley?
yet. It will be soon, but right now, yeah, absolutely. So non-negotiable living is, I focus on guiding men, women, and families to create a life by design through non-negotiable habits around fitness, family, faith, and financial freedom. Now, the Busy Mom Method is my women's fitness division. So this is where I work with women to help them achieve all of these goals. So if you're looking to improve your health, start an exercise plan, start changing those mindsets around food and exercise so that you could be that healthy foundation in your household, then you can find me on Instagram at the Busy Mom Method. I have a website, thebusymommethod.com. You could also find my podcast on Spotify, Non-Negotiable Living. That's also linked through my Instagram. So any number of these things, you can kind of find everything
Yes.
else. And if you add me on Instagram, feel free to shoot me a message. I respond to my followers. If anybody has any questions, if they're interested in the programs, I'm happy to talk about what I have to offer. And, my Instagram posts include tons of tips and tricks every week. So I encourage
Yes, they
everybody,
do.
whether they're interested in coaching or not, to follow my posts because I provide a lot of value, a lot of education, a lot of tips that could be useful to people.
Yes. And I'll put everything for Ashley in the show notes also. So thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on and, helping us to understand, how we can keep our bodies fit, how we can exercise, although, sometimes it may be challenging and busy for us. I know also to eat healthy and to just live a healthy lifestyle. Thank you so much for all the tips and everything.
Absolutely, Claudine. It
You.
was such a pleasure being here. Thank you so much. And I appreciate your listeners tuning in and learning with us today. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.